Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Well, on this video about the old Beshagginwaggin here, I want to give you a quick look around the engine compartment here and what all this old baby had in it from the factory, what it had in it when I received it, and what it currently has, which is considerably more than what it had when it left. I believe it was St. Louis is where this was actually manufactured. But be with you in just a minute and give you a quick look around. Well, this car, according to the fender tag over here, I left it original. I just barely cleaned it up just a little bit. Excuse me, but it left the factory with a 318, what's referred to as a poly. Forgive me if I'm not pronouncing this correctly, but I believe it's polyhemispheric. See, messing it up. It's not a hemi, hemispherical. But that's different from the 318s, I guess, that was produced in the later 80s, 90s. Gosh, I don't know how. I guess up into the 2000s. But when I received this car, as I mentioned in the previous video, it had a 413 big block called a wedge engine and had a 727 3-speed torque flight behind it. Well, as I mentioned in the other one, the seller, he fully disclosed that he didn't know anything about it other than that's what it was. Well, so I set the engine over in there, and I'll have some still photographs. I'll show you that I jerry-rigged some motor mounts until I thought I was satisfied that the engine was pretty decent shape. Got it strapped in there temporarily, did a compression check on the old one. Seemed to be pretty good. Put a mechanical oil pump back in there. I'll zoom in there. There's where the oil sending unit is. Put a mechanical oil pump on it, cranked it. Was getting about 45 pounds of pressure. Well, that's pretty decent for an old engine. Changed the oil. Oil looked pretty decent, other than it's old and black, but I was confident in that. So I ended up purchasing, there again, I'll zoom in down here on these motor mounts. You can see it there. From a company called 440 Source. The name implies they for big block Mopars, vintage Mopars, they are the company to go to. And no, they're not endorsing this video or sponsoring this video, but great guys over there, really helped me. Those are reproduction motor mounts. Yes, these cars did come from the factory with big blocks, not very many of them. So that's where the reproduction market kicked in and got these reproduction motor mounts. So got the old motor actually in there, got the fuel line run up to it. I'll take the air cleaner off here in just a minute. Bought a new Edelbrock carb for it. Got her to cranking. My buddy come over that's a true mechanic. In the process of doing all that, I bought and installed this new electronic ignition distributor for the old motor. And he helped me. I had it severely out of firing order for one thing. These big block Mopars, firing order, the distributor runs in a counterclockwise rotation. Got it to hit and run ever so briefly till it turned it off. Unfortunately, I didn't have that one on camera. It sounded like there was someone inside that engine with a ball peen hammer just giving it hell. I do have a video, just a short video of what I found when I pulled the engine out and took the oil pan off. Long story short, one of the rod bearings was gone. I mean, all the bearing surfaces was gone. Only the actual caps were still there. I don't know how the thing, actually, well, I know how it ran, but I would have thought I'd have heard that just in my cranking it. But so that leads us to this engine. And this engine is, fortunately, I found it on Facebook Marketplace shortly after I found out that I needed a new engine. A gentleman up in Illinois had it on Facebook Marketplace. And it's a 76 440 block. He rebuilt it. He's a big Mopar guy. I only had 500 miles on it when I purchased it, but it has Keith Black. There again, probably kill this description. Hyperkinetic pistons, 906 heads, 214, 181 valves, stainless valves, comp 470 lift cam, and 1.6 roller rockers. Not a roller cam, but roller rockers. So, sounds pretty good. Been pleased so far. Part of the whole swapping process, I did have to get, these are used, but I did have to get, I believe these are off a 69 Roadrunner. They, the old exhaust manifolds off the 413 would bolt up to it, but the ports on them are considerably smaller, and it just wasn't going to work out at all on the exhaust if I'd tried to use those old exhaust manifolds. So he had the engine all cleaned up and painted. I hit it again while I had it. I'll show you some still photos. That old saying, while you're in there, while I had the engine out, I thoroughly cleaned and got rid. There wasn't any rust, but thoroughly cleaned and slicked up this engine compartment, and did lay down just a single stage enamel paint on it. Turned out for me, I thought pretty decent, especially for an engine compartment. So while the outside might have that nice patina, the inside here, I like to think it's looking pretty decent. Part of all this process, I did change out the old voltage regulator. Went with the electronic solid state regulator. One of the things that they talk about on Mopars, they have had a amp meter in there, not a voltmeter in the instrument cluster. Those things are prone to start a lot of fires or melt your engine or wiring harness. This one, the wiring harness was in great shape. Old, great shape. So I did bypass that amp meter. Found those instructions online how to do that. And it's a little hard to see here. I used some fusible links in here to make that change. And so now I've got, you'll see it in a minute, I've got some under dash voltmeter. Again, that while you're in there. Originally had the single circuit brake system. A little leery of that. Got this outfit from Pirate Jack after doing a lot of research. Again, great company. No, they're not sponsoring anything. Seems to work well. I kept the drum brakes on the front for the time being. I'm going to zoom in here. I still had to use a residual valve up here, a proportioning valve, I'm sorry. You see that little red proportioning valve down in there. If I decide to go to discs, I can use this same master cylinder setup. All I got to do is put a different proportioning valve in there, and I'll be good to go. I'm gonna take a break here for just a second. Well, maybe I can do this with one hand and hold the camera. Forgive me for the swinging and swaying while I do it. I bought this 60s vintage air cleaner. Again, I'm going to try to keep it relatively stock looking. But in order to make it fit that Edelbrock carb, I had to do a little surgery on it. I got a buddy that's an excellent welder, fabricator. Together, he and I came up with this. Had to fabricate this spacer out of 5 inches. Just happened to be stainless, didn't have to be, but used some stainless filler rod there, those little tips you see sticking up to keep it centered or setting properly there on the base of the carburetor. And then I had to, the reason I had to have that as well was, as you can see, I had to do some surgery on this base here to get everything to line up properly. Seems to work well. Haven't run it that long or that hard, but seems to work well. Another change I made was originally the Chryslers. Well, I think a lot of manufacturers that era. Down here, for people refer to it as passing gear, kick down lever to downshift your automatic transmission when you go to pass. Originally, it used linkage. I'll try to show. I still have that old linkage. I'll try to show that perhaps. Now it did, although this is a replacement cable, it did actually use a cable for the accelerator. I'm sorry, I was calling that a proportioning valve down there. It's called a residual valve, that little red one. Here's the proportioning valve. And it's a manual one. I've not adjusted it yet. I've never owned a vehicle that you have to do that. May have to solicit some help from my buddy when I get ready to do that. So give me just a minute to put this air cleaner back on, although I could take it off one-handed. Putting it back on one-handed and hold the camera is a little tricky. Nothing else too exciting to write home about under here, other than I did, as part of the whole run it and trying it and what have you, I did have to put an overflow can on it. It wasn't spitting out too much, but it was making a bit of a mess. So put that on there. Somebody, like I mentioned, this car had been used as a parts car while it sat in Colorado. Someone has helped themselves to horns. I did find a nice set of horns on eBay, cleaned them up, painted it. I did replace the gaskets on the power steering pump, which they're still leaking, but that's for another day, and it's not bad. Of course, down in there you can see put a new fuel pump on it, new mechanical fuel pump. But that's it. As long as everything's working well, I'm hopeful that I'm pretty well done under here. That is the original alternator that came with it, although someone had changed it some years ago, but it appears to be working well. At idle, putting out right at 13.5 volts or so. You go down the road and picks on up a little bit, but it seems like the regulator back there is doing its job. So let me get this air cleaner back on here, and I'll be back here in just a second. This is when my car was arrived about a year ago. That's the old 413 wedge being pulled out after I found the rod knot. There's the new engine I picked up from Illinois, or he brought it to me actually. There's my power booster brake mock-up. Engine bay just shortly before painting. There it is, the finished product. I got a close-up coming in up here. Check that out. Now the new engine getting ready to be put in. Not to scratch that paint up. Got it down in there. Got it all bolted back up. I was having some trouble with cooling, so I had to fabricate an engine shroud to help with the cooling. Seems to be working. And there it is in my mock-up. So there you go. All right, and I'm back. Some of you may ask or be thinking, well, why didn't he just go ahead and overhaul that 413? I considered it, called around several machine shops. Finding a good one, that's problem one. Finding two that's what I consider reasonable, another issue. And third is finding one. I had a couple. Yeah, I can do it, but it'll probably be 6-7 months before we can get into it. And I wasn't out for a big horsepower, low torque or high torque motor, all this high performance stuff. Just so happened, the gentleman I bought this from, I feel like he gave me a really good deal on it. And I do have to admit that I do like the way it sounds. This is the first car I've owned that's had an aftermarket high performance cam in it. And let's look inside here, give you a start up, and then walk around there and see what this baby sounds like from behind. Now I have already started it and got it up to operating temperature, but there's the gauges I was talking about. Say this says alternator, discharging, charging. That was an amp meter. Did away with that. I kept, although I put the mechanical gauge on it, I still have the idiot light too. So let's go around here and hear this baby. Well, there you have it. Appreciate you watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And I shall see you on the next one.